good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of all the Ingalls shipbuilders, welcome to our Pascagoula shipyard for the christening of the 5th United States Coast Guard cutter, James. The National Security Cutter is the most technologically advanced ship in the Coast Guard's fleet, designed and built to handle maritime homeland security, law enforcement, national security missions. So it makes sense that this class of ship is called the Legend class. And it's certainly befitting that this particular ship is named after a Coast Guard legend himself, Joshua James. We are honored to have as our ship sponsor today a great descendant of Joshua James, great-great-niece Charlene Benoit. It is interesting to note that Charlene's great-grandfather, Joshua James' brother Samuel, designed the Nantasket, a uniquely built surf boat that Joshua often used to fulfill his life-saving missions. I believe that Samuel would truly understand and appreciate the importance of a well-built ship and appreciate the craftsmanship on display behind me today. James is the 5th ship in the class we're building. Teamed with the Coast Guard, this is really a fantastic program, providing high-quality ships at a great value. The more of the ships we build, the better we get at it, producing each ship for fewer and fewer man-hours. We call this a learning curve, and the NSC program has an excellent one. Our shipbuilders know they're building these cutters for American heroes. Coast Guard men and women, our friends and our neighbors, sons and daughters, nieces and nephews. Many Ingalls shipbuilders are with us today, and I'm extremely proud of every one of them. Would all the Huntington Ingalls shipbuilders please stand to be recognized? In closing, I'd like to once again thank you for joining us in this historic event. May God bless the officers and crew who will serve on this great ship and all those who will defend our nation. And may God bless America. Thank you.
There's an ancient saying, to save a life is to save an entire world. And if this is true, then Captain Joshua James saved 600 worlds. Put that in perspective. If a national security cutter holds a crew of 120, Captain James saved enough people over the course of his life to crew 5 of these ships. Now that is what legends are made of. Coincidentally, James is the 5th NSC we've built, and it's the 2nd one we've christened this year. And it's the 1st we've christened since our senior Coast Guard guest became Vice Commandant this past May. So Vice Admiral Neffinger, thank you for being here today. Huntington Ingalls Industries is proud to partner with the Coast Guard to recapitalize the cutter fleet, and we're excited to show you our work firsthand. Mrs. Benoit, thank you for being such a gracious ship sponsor and for connecting us to your great-great-uncle. I'm sure Captain James' life has been a source of inspiration and pride in your family for generations. And now his story will go everywhere that this ship goes. We are very proud that our work will help tell that story. And we're proud that this ship will take its rightful place in the Legend class, enabling the men and women of the Coast Guard to do their jobs and safely return to their loved ones. We're very good at building these ships, and we would love to build more. And like Captain James, we are not motivated by notoriety, distinction, or fame. The work is its own reward. We love building these ships, and we love knowing that they help save lives while also protecting our American way of life. God bless the U.S. Coast Guard, and God bless America. Thank you.
It is with great joy that I welcome you to the Mississippi Gulf Coast on this beautiful day to celebrate the introduction of the newest national security cutter to our Coast Guard. To the shipbuilders of the Gulf Coast, without you, this technological marvel could not exist. I have said it many times, but I'll say it again. The Mississippi Gulf Coast is home to the finest shipbuilders in the world. Shipbuilders are the backbone of America's last great heavy industry, and in South Mississippi, our shipbuilders are the cornerstone of our community and livelihood. As the 5th ship in the Legend class of the National Security Cutters, I have been so impressed to see her come together. This is truly a ship to be proud of. This ship is by far the most technologically advanced Coast Guard ship anywhere in the world, and I know our Coast Guard will put her to good use. Whether it is drug interdiction, counterterrorism, or other homeland security missions, this ship will go on to be one of the greatest tools in our nation's toolkit for the protection of our homeland and the safety of our citizens. Simply put, these ships are essential in maintaining the safety and security of our nation. And most of all, these ships are responsible for returning our Coast Guardsmen back home safely to their families, a mission that none of us take lightly. Together with the Coast Guard, the shipbuilders of the Gulf Coast, and our nation's homeland security leadership, we will continue to strengthen what is already the best trained and most dedicated Coast Guard in the world. So thank you all for being here for this great occasion, and thank you for your support of our brave men and women in our Coast Guard. Thank you, and God bless you.
What a privilege and an honor to be here to share in the christening of our newest national security cutter. Thanks you all for being here today. It's a great pleasure to see you all here. I want to particularly welcome the prospective crew of the cutter James, who are all sitting together right over here, and they're the ones most excited about today, I think. I'd give anything to be their age again and take over. So thank you. I'd especially like to thank Huntington Ingalls Shipbuilding for this ceremony today. It's a tremendous opportunity to show off the great work that you're doing. You've heard the successes that we've already had with the National Security Cutter. All I can tell you is that we're getting some amazing ships out of this shipyard, and I couldn't be happier with the partnership that we have here with Huntington Ingalls and the great work that you're doing. We really appreciate the care and the efforts that go into these ships. And all you have to do is talk to the folks that are doing the testing on the acceptance trials and the builders trials, and they'll tell you that they're some of the best ships they've ever seen built. So thank you for that. Today's ceremony marks an important milestone for this ship because we're going to bring it to life by naming it. We're going to turn this ship from a collection of steel and wiring and hull blocks and piping systems and engine systems, and we're going to turn it into a ship, and we're going to give it some life today. So today, NSC number 5 becomes the James, and it becomes tied to the legacy of one of our most important forebears. From this day forward, she'll carry the legacy of her namesake, and it'll take on the character of her crews. So Charlene, I really want to thank you for being here today to christen the James. As a ship sponsor, you have directly tied us to your great-great-uncle, Joshua James, and you've ensured that his legacy will guide our future. You've heard that he was one of the Coast Guard's most famous lifesavers and one of our service's first surfmen. Now, these are the highly skilled individuals who head out from shore in small boats into the roughest of waters and the highest of surf to save those in peril. So he embodied our guiding principles of service to nation, duty to people, and commitment to excellence. So Joshua James served our nation, and he did so for nearly 60 years. Now, we keep our ships a long time. I don't know if we'll keep this one for 60 years. We're going to try. But that's a pretty daunting legacy to live up to. His numerous awards were so jam-packed with tales of daring surf rescues, ships saved, and catastrophes averted that often the citations simply stated, "and hundreds of lives saved." He exemplified duty to people. To Joshua James, taking care of his people meant keeping them at their best. Indeed, one story has him taking his crews back out into the surf immediately after a challenging rescue because he felt they could have performed just a little bit better. He was committed to excellence. He was a hero and a legend whose spirit permeates the Coast Guard to this day. He was at the forefront of surf boat technology. He acquired, tested, and advocated for the best equipment, and he ensured his crews were highly proficient in the use of that equipment. So it's fitting that we turn to this legacy to help guide our future. We face challenging times with new levels of uncertainty and complexity. On the maritime approaches to our borders, we face the emergence of networked, transnational criminal organizations, and they're threatening the stability of key partner nations. Indeed, the drive for illicit markets threatens our borders and maritime transit zones in ways we haven't seen before. And we expect that in the next decade, the boundaries among illegal migrant activity, the smuggling of weapons and drugs, and the scourge of terrorism will continue to converge and blur. And the challenges created by that convergence will be daunting. Meanwhile, globalization and dramatic increases in domestic hydrocarbon production are changing the face of the U.S. maritime marketplace. We now export 2 million barrels of petroleum a day, more than just 2 years ago. We've doubled production since 2008, domestic production. That means a lot more ships plying our waters, and that raises the bar for ensuring that we maintain the safety, the security, and the protection of our waterways. Further, we've been challenged by complex major disasters and storms. Superstorm Sandy, the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, Hurricanes Katrina, Rita, Floyd, and many others that you're all too familiar with here on the Gulf Coast. All of these have generated massive responses that need highly capable command and control platforms that can provide immediate, self-sustained response capability. So those new challenges, driven by complex and uncertain times, require new ways of thinking and new platforms for the 21st century. The National Security Cutter, the James, is the cutter that gives us the capability to do all this and much more. It will join its sister ships in leading our fleet of maritime patrol forces to protect our authorities, to protect those on the sea, to protect the nation from threats delivered by sea, and most importantly, to protect the sea itself. So it should be no surprise that we named this cutter after Joshua James. We need his spirit, his dedication, and his values. We need his adaptability, his staying power, and his multi-mission focus. We need his courage, his innovation, and his proficiency. So what we need is a 21st century Joshua James to meet the demands of a 21st century world. And I think you've heard that we found what we need, and it's moored right behind me here. So thank you again. Thanks again for the great honor of being part of this ceremony. Congratulations to the new crew, and thank you, Charlene James Benoit, for sharing your ancestor with us. Thank you all, and Semper Paratus.
As a descendant of Joshua James, I am humbled by this honor of ship sponsor. I would like to thank the United States Coast Guard for preserving the legacy of Joshua James this way, with this cutter that will bear his name and serve as a reminder of his service and sacrifice for many years to come as it continues to protect the lives of America. To the Ingalls shipbuilders, I thank you for such a magnificent vessel. To the men and women of the United States Coast Guard and to the crew who will bring this cutter to life, I thank you. In the name of the United States of America, may God bless this ship and all who sail in her. I christen thee, James.